Welcome back to Event Explorer, the podcast where we break down the world's biggest and most exciting live events with the people who bring them to life. I'm your host, Daniel Roth, and if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a future episode. And while you're here, rate and review the show. It helps more people discover these stories. Now, festivals are more than just stages and speakers. They're places where culture is created, where people connect, where communities leave their mark. And behind every great festival, there's great leadership. It takes vision, strategy, and a deep understanding of what makes an event resonate to be successful year after year. Troy Brown is one of those leaders. His work has helped shape the festival landscape nationwide. From building new experiences from the ground up to elevating existing ones, his work has left its mark. This year, he's bringing that expertise to Jazz in the Gardens, one of the most important festivals in Miami Gardens and all of southeastern Florida. We're talking about what it takes to grow a festival, how events can truly serve their communities, and why ownership in the live entertainment space matters now more than ever. Before we get into it, follow us at Event Explorer Podcast on Instagram and send your thoughts or guest suggestions to daniel@eventexp.org. All right, let's get into it. Welcome back. Few have shaped the live entertainment industry like Troy Brown. Recently honored on the Billboard 100 Power Players list and a key force behind the Black Promoters Collective's rise to the top 10 on Pollstar's Live 75 for most tickets sold, Troy has built a career creating cultural moments that bring people together. From leading global brand campaigns to producing some of the country's most exciting music festivals, like Atlanta's ONE Musicfest and the new TwoGether Land in Dallas, his work is redefining live experiences. Now he's bringing that expertise to Jazz in the Gardens, a festival celebrating its 18th anniversary this March in Miami Gardens, Florida. Troy, thank you for joining me. Excited to hear about your journey and what's ahead for JITG in 2025.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's a total pleasure. And, you have such an amazing career in live events, and they obviously are important to you, something you care about and something you like yourself. What was this, about 25 years ago, let's say, that we started getting into this and you've built this career over that time. What were the first kind of steps or introduction to this world that really got you interested in it?
Wow. Fabulous question. How do I encapsulate it all? To be quite honest with you, it wasn't really about live events from the beginning, right? My history emanates really from digital technology and telecom. My career started out at New England Telephone, which then became Bell Atlantic, which then became Verizon. So my history starts with telecommunications, digital technology, products and services, building those products and services. I come from a kind of a telecom digital family. But understanding that, knowing where digital technology, telecom communications, today what we call, content, was going, we could see that brands were going to ultimately own the branded entertainment content space. We call it now digital content storytelling, branded entertainment. I was building the undergirding of all of that, the technology and the pipes to allow a lot of this stuff to flow, right? At what everybody now knows as Verizon. So I was the launch manager for FiOS. I was the launch manager for ISDN, building all those pipes and those types of things. I was a launch manager for Verizon's MP3 service, which was the full delivery of MP3s over mobile phones that ultimately turned into the iPhone, Apple, and all those types of things, and doing all those deals with the record labels and artists and ringtones and all those things, right? So, in doing all of that, yes, there was experiential marketing, but brands really started to not dip their toes in, but wanted to have a voice in what that looked like. So, you saw major brand campaigns that became full on experiential tours with artists, but it was um, it was promoted and developed, and stories were told from the brand's kind of first person singular voice and tone. And we were doing tours around the country for Heineken Red Star Soul, Red Star Access with the biggest artists, right? Ludacris, Kendrick Lamar was on that tour early in his career. Like we were putting him out in front of the world. Um, Hennessy Artistry, which was with the Roots, were the base of the tour, kind of like the base liquid, right? So there was a notion back at that time, hey, people only drink Hennessy straight, and Hennessy wanted to be known as something more mixable and something more fluid and fluent. So we adapted an analogy called hard artistry and the mixability of art, and the Roots represented the base fluid that was the Hennessy, and we were letting people know that no, you could make a Hennessy mojito, a Hennessy and ginger, a Hennessy and berry, and then all the other accoutrements, if you will, were the mixability of Hennessy and the mixability of music. So it wasn't just hip hop and R&B. We were bringing in reggaeton. We were bringing in other surprise artists throughout the tour that the Roots were playing with. So it could have been anywhere from Shaka Khan to Daniel Merriweather to a reggaeton artist to, um, honestly, during the Grammys, one of the surprise artists that came out on the stage and played with the Roots was Jimmy Fallon, which is how Jimmy Fallon came to know the Roots and see their flexibility and their artistry and how they became the band on the Jimmy Fallon show. So it really started with really just the with marketing, brand marketing, digital storytelling and content and branded tours and those types of things and building out branded properties for brands. And we were making these brands millions and millions of dollars. Um, as an agency owner because I owned an agency. So it got to a point where we said, okay, wait a minute. We're at the beck and call of these agencies. And when leadership changes, if they want to bring in their agency partners, we're now out, right? The money's great, but as an agency owner, you're still at the whim of that brand or that agency leadership. And we're giving all of our thought leadership and IP to these brands, but at a certain point, we need to build it for ourselves. So that's ultimately what we did. We started to build our own IP. And that's where we got into the building out of our own properties. That's what spawned things like One Music Fest and building out One Venture Group. And, after 15 years of One Music Fest, we built out a sister property in Dallas called TwoGether Land. And then, after the pandemic, several of the other independent touring promoters got together and we thought about what does it look like for us to combine ourselves and Voltron, if you will, and collaborate, right, and build the Black Promoters Collective and start to do our own tours, and rival, if you will, the Live Nations and AEGs of the world to build it for ourselves and bring that talent back to the culture, if you will. So,
So
um,
that's
yeah.
I mean, from the IT background through what you're doing today is quite a journey. I mean, it's driven by passion. Obviously there was a love for music. I can feel it early on. And from the live events perspective and the festival perspective, there's a sense of partnership in your work that I can tell has been there all the time. The power of bringing a brand and an artist together, the power of bringing live people in that mix. There's the kind of trifecta, and then now turning that on its head and saying the brand is us. The brand is creating culture. The brand is, or the thing we're selling is you feeling good and you feeling the power of being together. Amazing, amazing. Um, so from building the early on, what were those days like for building One Music Festival? You were, I mean, this is, a decade or so ago, and music festivals were kind of just coming up. We had, the Bonnaroos or the Coachellas just in the beginning. finding funding, I mean, obviously you were connected in that way, but was it I imagine it took some work to put together something that's really as big. I mean, 100,000 people now coming every year. What were those early days like? Like, how did you have to fight for it, or was it like I'm sure you had a lot of trust already?
Yeah, so I'll in full transparency, I'll be honest with you. I was not the original thought leader behind my part. So my partner Jay Carter is the brainchild and genius behind the ideation of One Music Fest, right? But yes, to his credit, bootstrapping the ideation, which was initially a 2,500 person festival in the parking lot of the King Plow Center on the west side of Atlanta. Yeah, it's hard, right? Because nobody believed that people of color would go to an open air multi-stage festival. Um, the big box folks, which I won't keep naming, but we know who they are, said it couldn't be done, and that our community and our consumers would never attend and would never go to. You guys won't go bear the elements and go outside and go to a multi-stage festival and sit on the grass and that kind of thing. So they wouldn't support it and wouldn't fund it. So like with everything else, we've got to do things for us, by us, with us, right? So Jay was the mastermind behind that. But as with everything else, he saw, um, hey, ho who do I go find that can bring in the things that I need to scale this? And as I was doing the Heineken Red Star Souls and the Hennessy artistries, um, someone that he knew me. And actually, it's crazy that we're having this I'm explaining it now because she just passed away a couple of weeks ago, unfortunately. But she said, uh, "Hey, I see what you're doing. Nobody's really doing it like this in the brand space with these tours. You've got to meet him." So she connected us together probably 13, 14 years ago. She's like, "You two have got to come together because he needs what you have. And you guys got to meet. You got to see there's this little festival thing that's happening, and I really think it can be big. But if he adds this component, the branding, the digital marketing, the digital storytelling, content development, you can really help him scale." So, after that first meeting, we had dinner, and it was like kindred spirits. We've been brothers since then, and rocking and rolling. So yeah.
What is it? So this is you kind of have developed such a career that you can make your own path a little bit. What is it that drives you to a project? Jazz in the Gardens as a great example of something
Mm,
you're taking on. You're bringing seniority and authority to help it
yeah.
grow. What drives you to a project? What kind of gets you going? About that and makes you want to jump on.
Yeah, I think it's the nugget in something, um, the underlying story, right? I think it's the notion of community, the notion of honestly, there's an underdog story in Jazz in the Garden, right? When you look at the city of Miami Gardens, a city with a mayor of color, city council of color, right? It's an incredible city, that's uncommon in these United States. And this year is its 18th year anniversary celebration. And they've gone through several iterations with other production partners, and they said, "Hey, we'd like a production partner that thinks like us, that views the world through a lens like we do, that understands um, the issues that we have, um, and that can tell our story." Yeah, so after meeting with them, and we felt like kindred spirits. So we've taken it on, and last year was a incredible success, across the board. Attendance, marketing, press pickup. taking them from, like a regional property to a national property. People across the country were taking note of the presence that Jazz in the Garden or JITG Music Fest had, right? Because we wanted to help them also understand that um, you're going to have to skew a little bit younger now in order to move forward into the future. You can't just keep doing the same old thing because your audience is aging up, right? And as your audience ages up, that's not necessarily always the festival consumer. So, it was a lot of that is a bit of education as well, right? And educating them on what we do from a marketing perspective, social listening, audience intelligence, data analytics, all those things to help them see, how you've got to target the consumer and the right ways to target them and tell stories and, what digital marketing and analytics looks like and, all those types of things. So, um, in meeting them and understanding their desires, we really felt like, there was a kindred spirit and we could help them have a level of success and join arms and really um, um, move forward as a community because the community down there is doing some amazing things. Having success within their community, building, new shopping malls and new community centers and the economic growth and development that they're having is amazing. Like Miami Gardens is an amazing story that the country should know about.
Incredible, incredible. So part of that is through curation and building of the show, which, you've lent your expertise to. So as you came in, what were some of the elements that you all added to JITG to strengthen it or bring it to that younger audience? Is it lineup? Is it programming?
Yes, and I think it's all the above, right? So yeah, lineup programming, marketing, look and feel, rebrand, all those things. Establishing, new and improved media partnerships and relationships. How do you how do you roll the festival out in a different way? Those kind of things. So, and looking at the marketing and storytelling of the festival from a pre, during, and post perspective so that you set yourself up properly for the following year, right? So, yeah, all the things.
So it becomes an entity instead of just being a one-time event. You're now kind of promoting throughout the year, just from a festival perspective or what as I've encountered as we've entered a more digital world. Thankfully to Troy, we're more connected. We get there's great content. Great content kind of rises to the top,
Mhm.
but talent still makes its way to a global stage.
Mm.
Um, how do you think a festival or an event kind of is particularly or can take advantage of that?
So I think we have to look at a festival not just as a one-off event. I think we have to look at it like it's a media asset and you want to program it as such, right? If you look at a radio station, a television station, you want to program it like it's becoming or turning into a media asset. What does the storytelling look like? Like I said, who might be some of the media partners? Who might be some of the influencer partners? What does it look like as it relates to brand partners so that you can, kind of do those type of integrations? What's your brand DNA look like versus a brand partner DNA? What are the overlapping intersection points and how do you execute against those that intersection point to tell stories, like I said, pre, during, and post and throughout the year, against even the brand's promotional roadmap, and how does it make sense, right? So it becomes a media asset at certain times of the year, right? Mother's Day, dads and grads, holidays, summertime. There are stories to tell throughout the entire calendar.
I see. I see. Um, Now as we're rolling into the festival, what's this year? What has this year brought that is a little different from last year? How have you continued to kind of actualize on the vision? I know it's grown, right? We're at Hard Rock now. I mean, the premier venue, the newest kind of premier venue in Florida. What? Yeah, how's this evolution been going?
Wow. So the 18th year of JITG Music Fest. I mean, this is some people may not really realize this is a historic year for the festival, right? So let's just talk about Miss Lauryn Hill set. She's calling it a special diaspora calling set, right? Featuring Wyclef John. So it's really and her and YG Marley, which is her son. So it's kind of like a reformulation of the Fugees, right? However, on the set she has Doechii, who just won the Grammy for Rap Album of the Year. Now, if you heard Doechii's acceptance speech on the Grammys, Doechii told you, "Hey, this is history. There have only been 3 women ever to win Rap Album of the Year, and 2 of them are on the stage right now." One of them presented the Grammy to her, right? So Cardi B presented the Grammy to Doechii. That was 2 of the 3. The third is performing on stage at Jazz in the Garden with Doechii, Lauryn Hill. So this is a historical set that's going to happen at Jazz in the Garden with Lauryn Hill and Doechii performing together on this set. That's like amazing. You don't get those types of things, right? And they, Jazz in the Garden isn't known for curating those types of opportunities or those type of moments, if you will, right? So that's one. Two, so that's a headliner for Saturday. Two, the headliner for Sunday is New Edition. Well, New Edition literally just finished up a record breaking and the residency of the year for 2024 in Vegas. They just finished that up last Sunday. And now they're coming off of that and going right into Jazz in the Gardens. So like I said, this is really like a huge monumental historical year for Jazz in the Gardens. And on top of that, just before New Edition goes on, it's the return of Beenie Man, who hasn't had a visa here in the country for almost 10 years. This is his first live performance in America in over a decade. So when we're talking about like special curated moments that are different and monumental for JITG or Jazz in the Gardens, this is big.
And I mean, we're going to draw the 6 figures of fans, I would think, right? It's building towards that. And what I learned is we're not just focused on music here, right? There's a chance for younger artists to get involved, and then B,
Absolutely.
focus on the arts and focus on discussion. How have you curated that to go along? It's more than a festival. It really is culture building, and it is a place for discussion. Why? And how have you built that? Because it sounds amazing, and for such a big festival, audacious to take that step and really offer that. People may just be coming to party, but there's a message that's going along with it that just sounds incredible and curated in the right way that it's still fun. Like people are going to enjoy it in a different way, but sounds true to the festival too, and the environment.
Well, so no question. And I think again, back to your question, like what made us want to partner with the city of Miami Gardens. I think, as I said, they're very intentional, and there's really a story in the city, right? It's a very sensory experience that they want to bring to the table to showcase who they are as a city, right? And why, when you come to South Florida, you're not just going to South Beach. You're not going to Miami Beach, right? There's something to see in Miami Gardens, right? There's a food experience. There's an art experience. There's music history experience. There's a communal and community experience in the city. So there's a week long programming of events with the food and poetry event on the Wednesday before the festival, right? Bringing together like the best of both worlds with, the South Florida food, some of the finest poets and spoken word artists on Wednesday night, right? At their recreational complex in the city. And then you have on Friday, early in the day, there's a women's impact lunch where like over 1,000 women come together over at the Hard Rock Hotel for this incredibly soul stirring women's impact lunch with great and incredible speakers. So that's great. And then later Friday night is the opening party kickoff to the festival over at Hard Rock Stadium, where people now start to really get into party mode with a ton of DJs and again additional food, and they'll party till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then then obviously the festival is Saturday and Sunday. So it's a 4 or 5 days, like I said, sensory experiences, food and spoken word and art and communal coming together and at the Women's Impact Luncheon and prayer and all those things. Yeah, it's a real thing.
That's super impressive. To see, you can see headliner names. You have the stars coming in, but also to see that you're going to the community center and activating that, which is going to bring new attention to that as a space for performance or as a space that sits on the same stage as a Lauryn Hill, as a new addition.
Yeah.
It's just really cool, and I think it's a model for what other festivals could and should be doing to take the spotlight and hold up a little mirror so we can shoot a beam over here or shoot a beam over here. Just to The reason people are coming in, or some of them, is for the headliner, yes, but then the depth and the enjoyment really is going to come from from saying, I'm in Miami Gardens, I'm not in South Beach. They're going to say, I discovered this new place if they're not familiar with it. Or oh, you going to Miami? No, I'm going to Miami Gardens. Are you going to Boca? No, I'm going to Miami Gardens. It'll be a
That's
whole
right.
new vernacular that's created. So I just want to thank you so much for the kind of eye-opening vision of what a high-level festival can also do to that point. Is there something that you've learned that kind of keeps you going back to live events and festivals, in order to, you can kind of choose your direction, and this is one that keeps calling you back? What do you think it is? Is it that moment when you're there? I mean, are you still loving just being on site and listening to the music and being with, seeing friends, and that has got to be a major part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, initially, obviously, yes, it's seeing people have joy and connecting with each other around the music. But I really think the other thing is watching people be overjoyed around the sensory experience of community, right? Um, I really love seeing that, because we need it. Right? With all that's going on in the world, I don't care about your political affiliations or whatever, devoid of that. Just the ability for people to come together, let their hail down, exhale, taking a deep breath, and just enjoy being around each other, right? People talking to each other, people having conversations and enjoying the experience together. um, People are meeting new friends at festivals, right? People meet lifelong friends. People are meeting their spouses at some of these festivals, right? We get those stories all the time. Hey, I met my wife there. Those kind of things. And you've got your festival crews, like people travel together to, hey, yeah, we're all going together to have to X festival or whatever, those kind of things, right? So I think that's the part. The other thing that I will say is, and it's something that we're seeing more and more of, and that we try to push on, is that you see a lot of these brands all the time that are at festivals, and you think it's just a money grab that XYZ brand is there or whatever. But one of the things that we are very intentional about is, even for instance at JITG this year, one of the specific brand partners is like Tito's Vodka. Well, you think, oh yeah, it's just they're serving drinks and it's a money grab or whatever. Well, no, Tito's is actually making a strong and huge donation into one of the specific community organizations within Miami Gardens to support them so that they can this organization can continue to do the good work within the community of Miami Gardens, right? That's very intentional. So that work for me is also extremely important because in all the work that we're doing, it's not just a money grab. We don't want to take money out of the community. We want to ensure that we're giving back and putting money into the community so that they can continue to flourish and grow.
And that'll bring longevity to the community and to you as a festival because you'll be supported locally, which is your strongest audience. Amazing. Well, yeah, that's intentionality and that's culture building and that's, rallying the community, which is something I think, we all need right now. Yeah. Despite whatever's going on, if we can get together and be seen together, positivity is going to come from that and it's going to be a good influence. I want to thank you, Troy, for joining today and for this discussion. It's been enlightening and, really gives a great sense of optimism to what bringing, different pieces of things together, whether it's from a corporate end and a arts end, what the kind of magic can be created, right? And really a jazz of, different pieces, different instruments coming together and playing together makes a fuller piece, makes new music together. The lineup, as you said, incredible. New edition, Lauryn Hill. This Diaspora set sounds amazing. So if people haven't got their tickets yet, it's jazzinthegardens.com.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Jazzinthegardens.com. Get your tickets because this is going to be one to be remembered.
And not a bad time of year also.
Oh my God.
Perfect.
First week of March in Miami Gardens. Okay, I can't complain. Complain about that.
The socials are at Jazz Gardens and at Black Promoters Collective for people to follow because there's going to be more and more news. I'm sure that, as you stretch basically coast to coast now with influence and creating events. Mm-hmm. So, Troy, really appreciate the conversation. I look forward to seeing, what comes next and seeing all of the great happenings from this year's festival. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Take care.
All right.
Now that was a masterclass in what it means to build something with purpose. 3 big takeaways from that conversation with Troy Brown. 1, festivals aren't just about music, they're cultural movements. Jazz in the Gardens is a celebration of Miami Gardens, bringing in artists, food, and experiences that highlight the local community in a way that goes beyond the stage. 2, ownership matters. Troy and the Black Promoters Collective are making major moves, proving that independent promoters and cultural leaders can take charge of the industry on their own terms. And 3, longevity comes from evolution. The best events grow with their audience, and Troy's approach to marketing, storytelling, and partnerships keeps festivals fresh while still honoring their roots. If you want to experience Jazz in the Gardens for yourself, grab your tickets at jazzinthegardens.com and follow at Jazz Gardens and at Black Promoters Collective for all the latest updates. If you enjoy this episode, hit subscribe and leave a review. It helps more people discover these incredible stories from behind the scenes of the best live events. Thanks for listening to Event Explorer, and I'll catch you on the next one. Until then, happy exploring.